Look, education is a common gateway to a better future, but not everyone has the same access or opportunities. For many children and adults living in poverty who have fewer resources, access to quality education is a distant dream. And sometimes not even that, it's the instability created by a survival environment that makes it difficult to plan for a future. Today, we have with us Dr. Ruby K. Payne, known for her work in the field of poverty, to tell us a little bit more. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today, Ruby, for sure. Look, I say it all the time, and I've said it throughout my entire life because it was this for me. I grew up in a ghetto, one of the largest ghettos in this country, a place called Cherry Hill, Baltimore. And always knew, because my parents emphasized this to the nth degree, education would be the great equalizer. It's a great equalizer. It's a way that anybody can lift themselves out of poverty, or is that right?
Well, not necessarily always.
Okay.
You can really work hard, you can get educated, it won't get you out. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't do those two things, you won't ever get out.
Wow.
So they're key. Yeah.
So what got you started on to focusing on that intersection of poverty and education?
Well, my former husband, who passed away, was named Frank Payne. He was a mix of Cherokee and Caucasian. Mm-hmm. Extreme poverty, and when I met his family, he had 3 siblings, IQs over 150, wow. Smartest family I've ever met, wow. Okay? And extreme poverty. I couldn't understand why they lived the way they did. And so that's what led me to understanding that environment. And then he took a job in the Chicago Board of Trade, and we were thrown in with very wealthy people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand the hidden rules of wealth. Hidden rules are unspoken queuing mechanisms.
I was going to ask you that because you came up with something about the hidden rules. Yeah. Talk about what they are.
And the bottom line is that people use them, they break relationships. One of the things you have to have if you want to move out of poverty is bridging social bridging capital. You have to meet people different than you are, okay? Because they help you see the world a different way, you think differently. And I couldn't understand that environment, okay? And hidden rules tell people whether you belong or not. Like if you've ever been in a social setting that was so uncomfortable you couldn't wait to leave.
Right.
Yep. Well, there were hidden rules operating. And mm-hmm. we have them by class, by race, by region of the country. And that's, they often keep people from getting educated because I don't like you, I'm not going to work with you, et cetera. Yeah.
Wow. So like in your experience, there are some really common misconceptions when it comes to poverty and the ability to learn, which isn't necessarily the same, right?
Exactly.
Right.
People don't understand how much knowledge bases are in the environment. See, everybody's got 24 hours a day, and how you spend your time determines to a large extent who you know and what you know, okay? And then what your environment demands from you. Like in middle-class households, there's tons of paper, okay? Documents everywhere. You don't have any of those in high-poverty households. Wealth has documents and paperwork that middle class doesn't understand, like provenance, like trusts, etc. And so those environments help you succeed in the institution of schooling.
And is this why you created this whole company called the Process Inc.? I mean, is this what really prompted you to do this? And tell me a little bit more about it.
My background is an educator, done a lot of work with schools, and people were having a lot of difficulty getting their children educated in schools. And the educators were having the most difficulty. And so I explained to them, no, this is why this is happening, okay, and here's how you work to make this happen. If you don't, we do a lot of community work, and if you basically don't work with the institutions, you don't change the community, because institutions create barriers. Institutions are the vehicle by which individuals interface with communities.
You help those institutions lift some of those barriers.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. And is that why you started this program called Getting Ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
And Getting Ahead is for adults in poverty. We've taken 125,000 adults in poverty, and we pay them to learn. Middle class gets paid to learn. Companies pay their employees to learn. We just say, here's information that you can use if you wish to stabilize your environment.
Okay, and now you've done a lot of learning, but a lot of teaching, is you're a pretty prolific author, right? I mean, you've written several books, and some of this goes down the path of economic development, right?
Right. I'm very interested in how communities stabilize, because if communities aren't stable, neither are the institutions, neither are the individuals. So how do you have economic development? And poverty reduction is one of the tools for economic development. And our ROI, we've taken 125,000 adults through poverty through it, is very good. One community got, for every dollar they spent, they got a $20 return. One community, for every dollar, got a $7 return. So we know it works for sustainability.
You've written, I guess, several books, and we just have a couple of them here. What do you think one of the best tips you have in one of those books might be?
Well, this one is about what happens when we do socioeconomic class. So poverty, middle class, wealth, how they think differently. That's what happens when people get in a romantic relationship, poverty to middle class to wealth, what they fight about, why you don't like your sister-in-law. Okay. This is about how you deal with emotional realities.
Okay.
This one looks at community issues, how you stabilize your community if you don't stabilize your community, particularly the institutions in the community. I live in Corpus Christi, Texas. They wanted to address their homeless issues, so they brought a woman in who only wanted to work with the wealthy and did not want to work with the institutions. Well, institutions are how individuals interface with the community. So if you want to change a community, we have learned in 25 years, you have to work with the institutions. Okay?
You know, right now, we're living in a tough time. I mean, that chasm between the haves and have-nots, the wealthy and the poor, is just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But we need to make sure that those on either side can understand tools that they can do to help both sides.
Yeah, there's not a lot of dialogue between the groups.
No.
Yeah.
So what do you think we need to do?
Well, one thing we do, like in this book, in the school business, we educate educators about the realities, you know, and how you transition. And you have to have social bridging capital. It's pretty difficult now to make it out of poverty unless you have an advocate. You've got to have a relationship. Somebody who kind of teaches you the rules that are operating out here that you don't quite understand, and how you negotiate them and how you deal with those knowledge bases. So we like to educate the resource to people in institutions, people who, because they create the barriers, they make the laws.
Sure.
And if you have a dialogue both ways, then you can stabilize.
Put on a crystal ball for a second. You look at America right now, the chasm between those who are the wealthy and those who are in poverty seems to be getting bigger and deeper and deeper and deeper. Do we not need more programs like this to help people understand that there is a way to step your way out of poverty?
There is a way. Right now, there's a whole set of thinking at the academic level that you can only change it if you change systems. But systems are made up of people, and you have to work at, there's 4 causes for poverty: individual choices, the resources of a community, jobs, transportation, housing, exploitation, racism, sexism, and the last one is political and economic systems. And we have learned over the years, if you only address one cause, you will never, ever move the needle.
Wow. Look, if people wanted to get more information, because this is truly fascinating, where would they go? ahaprocess.com, AHAPROCESS.com. Dr. Payne, thank you so much for being a part of the show today, for
Thanks.
sure. Absolutely. And of course, if you don't go up on ahaprocess.com, you can always go to our website, thebalancingact.com, and get more information. Thanks so much for joining us today.